the majority of listeners are unaware of one thing. There are deep silences on set behind the boisterous laughter and the catchphrase, "Dynamite." All the assistance we can obtain. TV Land. The star of Stage Screen in the Ghetto, Florida Evans, is shown here. Jimmie Walker rose to prominence during prosperous times, but that same fame also exposed irreversible flaws. In real life, his co-workers who assisted him in projecting the ideal family image on film remained aloof. The line that turned Walker into a legend was previously despised even by Norman Lear, the show's mastermind. Is doorless. Walker then reveals the truths that the audience has never heard before, the truth of what actually transpired. Is that laughter a sign of friendship? Is it division, or what? To learn all these secrets, stay tuned. Walker realized early on in the filming process that the screenplay was not producing the appropriate cadence of laughs. To make an impression, he decided to inject a number of his own parts. Director John Rich asked Walker to repeat it when Dynamite appeared. Norman Lear, on the other hand, was adamantly against it because he thought it distracted from the main plot. Walker later acknowledged that Norman Lear thought it was the most ridiculous thing he had ever seen and detested it. The confrontation with John Amos and Esther Rolle was even more serious than the one with Lear, but I had to do it since it was a way for the audience to remember me. According to Rolle, Jajaya was written as an 18-year-old who doesn't think, study, or accomplish anything. This was a direct assault on Walker's powerful performance rather than merely a critique of a fictional character. Rolle saw that image as a danger to the endeavor of creating a television model black family. Additionally, Amos did not hold back in asserting that JJ's chicken hat and the statement "Dynamite" are receiving too much attention. Walker made the decision to keep quiet during the entire filming procedure. He later acknowledged that he had grown accustomed to acting distantly. He only spoke with Raleigh and Amos about business when it was required. He didn't establish any personal bonds with them. Walker stuck to the audience's expected laughing, but they both wanted to concentrate on the family story at all times. As the second season of the show began, the distance grew as the character JJ nearly took over each episode. After the third season, Amos' departure from the cast brought the problem to a head. Conflicts with the writers were cited as the reason for his departure, but in reality, everything fell apart when he became the center of attention. In one case, Walker openly revealed that, although his statements may sound remorseful, they also show that he is aware that the attention is now all on him. After that, Esther Rolle decided to go, only to come back when the script contained a new sentence. Walker was solely responsible for maintaining the audience's interest each week at that time. However, his co-workers did not support that obligation. He was frequently left alone on set. Walker's humorous remarks were on one side, while the cast as a whole wanted to keep the tone somber. Those who have followed Walker's career frequently notice an odd paradox. Despite being a member of a close-knit performing family, he was the one who brought the most memorable moments of Good Times. He describes his loneliness in a straightforward, unadorned manner in his memoir. He came to terms with the fact that isolation was a necessary part of success. For Walker, playing JJJ is more than simply a part, it's a means of ensuring that his career doesn't end. He knows that in such a severe setting, he may be gone from the entertainment business in a matter of months if he doesn't make people laugh. He has been forever changed by this decision, which has thrown him into a maelstrom of conflict with others. Walker later referred to that time as the bad times in numerous interviews. For him, the happy times were a cultural turning point, but they also demonstrated the isolation that accompanied celebrity. Despite knowing that he would be met with icy looks, Walker went on stage to film and said, "Dynamite," when Amos and Rolle persisted on altering the script. Good Times was both a sad recollection and a pivotal moment in Walker's life. Every audience chuckle added another level of intensity to the scene. As seen by the enduring impact of Rolle and Amos's statements from that era, the reality behind the scenes was always more dramatic than any episode that was broadcast. On the set, lines are drawn. Jimmie Walker consistently asserted that he had a single objective when he joined Good Times: to elicit laughter from the audience. He didn't care if the story had enough depth, he called himself a fish out of water. Walker and his co-stars soon were separated by an imperceptible barrier as a result of this strategy. Walker was eager to include additional humorous elements, but the only people who continued to be close to him were Bernadette Stannis and Ralph Carter. They welcomed that exploding energy and even provided assistance when required. John Amos and Esther Roll, on the other hand, maintained a notable distance. While Walker pushed JJ's portrayal towards extreme humor, they wanted the Evans family image to be presented with seriousness. Over time, that distance became an impassable barrier. Because of this disparity, filming days on set are frequently stressful. While the other actors adhere strictly to the written words, Walker frequently inserts lines that aren't in the script. Finding common ground becomes challenging for both parties as a result. Walker's only source of approval is the audience's live laughing in the studio. For Roll and Amos, the real significance is in presenting a black family in a responsible and dignified manner. Every day, these two viewpoints collide, and neither side is prepared to compromise. The disparity was accentuated in those script talks. Walker tended to say nothing, letting the performers and screenwriters discuss the material. After that, he would enter the set and proceed in his own manner. Seeing himself as a lone performer in a group show, he disassociated himself from the process. Roll and Amos became more and more irritated with him because they thought he was undermining their combined efforts. However, Walker never expressed regret at that time due to the severe conflict. Every phrase that JJ said had the potential to make the audience laugh, and he saw it as the biggest reward. This attitude made the filming a demonstration of how one team concentrated on developing the plot while the others tried to produce humorous highlights. The vibe of the group almost disappeared as the distance grew. The predicament extends beyond the content of the characters. Walker doesn't look for connection in real life either. In addition to not talking much outside of work, he doesn't take part in group activities after filming. This strengthens the sense that he is not part of the group. While Walker opts for isolation, the others share a closeness. Walker is a special example because of this decision. On television, he stands out and disappears into his co-workers' private recollections. In interviews, Raleigh and Amos frequently bring him up, but primarily in a counterattack manner. Walker acknowledges this fact since, to him, being mentioned, whether favorably or unfavorably, still denotes influence. Walker's method of setting professional limits is obviously part of a long-term plan. He makes no effort to influence or change the opinions of his co-workers. To keep his job, he just concentrates on humor. Consequently, even when the entire film crew is split, JJ becomes a symbol. Nevertheless, he pays the price of feeling alone and isolated in the center of attention. Walker has always been direct in his subsequent conversations for the same reason. He makes it clear that he has only ever thought of Roll and Amos as co-workers and never as friends. Many people find this statement shocking, but for Walker, it is just the reality. He draws a distinct line between business and personal life, which has held true for many years. He manages to keep his distinct flair, but he finds it difficult to fit in with the squad. His performances deepen the divisions within the film crew while also adding explosive moments to the show. Many years later, people were still discussing those borders. Walker did not attempt to downplay or deny the distance when he described his experiences. He acknowledged that his choice to endure in the hostile world of television was a natural part of who he was. And the audience's memory of him was influenced by that same decision. Clear lines are painted on the scene, and a man stands by himself amid laughs. Repercussions outside the stage. There was a huge void left by John Amos' departure from the cast. After his departure, Jimmie Walker acknowledged that the show would never be the same. Additionally, this shift thrust him into the public glare, drawing more attention to JJA than ever before. This led to a conundrum. Walker was defeated. His assistants turned into an invaluable face. In order to preserve the Evans family's trustworthy reputation, Esther Roll had to take on more duties while Amos was away. Conversely, Walker kept refining his trademark humorous elements. The mood on set became more strained as these two pathways seldom ever intersected. When a new deal was reached, Roll returned after leaving during the subsequent phase, but she and Walker never reconciled. Walker made no secret of the opportunities and pressures that came with his character JJ's stardom. The slogan is Dynamite. became a catchphrase for a whole generation, was widely used in the media, and was printed on t-shirts. However, it also turned into a binding restriction for him. Following the conclusion of Good Times, Walker discovered that every other endeavor was compared to JJ. Therefore, it was difficult for the audience to accept him in various roles. He once acknowledged that the audience was constantly expecting to hear that well-known line again whenever he took the stage, regardless of what he accomplished. Walker experienced many obstacles as a result of this close relationship. The New Odd Couple was a sitcom that ran for just one season. A few movie parts also didn't make an impression. This fact emphasizes the negative effects of being famous too soon. Walker became well known across the country, although he never again achieved such success in his career. Walker frequently confronts his own legacy while performing stand-up. Although he does a lot of new routines, the majority of the crowd just anticipates the parts that make them think of JJ. This makes him feel stuck in addition to helping him keep a devoted following. For this reason, Walker calls the period following the good times the bad times, when the splendor of the past turns into an impenetrable shadow. Despite the highs and lows of his career, Walker never gave up. In order to sustain his reputation, he kept up a busy schedule, performed at tiny comedy clubs, and made cameos on TV series. Even though he was not as well known as he once was, these actions showed that he was strong enough to live with Jay Wyant's shadow. Loneliness was the most significant effect of that time. Walker acknowledged how little he ever communicated with his former co-stars. In addition, he never married, lived alone, and worked most of the time. This demonstrates that although his rise to prominence may have been aided by his lack of personal ties, the cost of his success was significant. That is unmistakable proof of a role's potency, but it also emphasizes the long-term effects on the creator's career. Because of what transpired offstage, Walker became a dazzling icon with numerous wounds that are difficult to repair. Difficulties and failures. Although Jimmie Walker is most recognized for his work in television, he has faced many difficulties in his personal life. Being closely linked to the character JJ was one of the main problems he encountered. Many producers were reluctant to offer him further jobs because of this link. Film or new sitcom auditions frequently ended in disappointment, because just one character was visible to both viewers and filmmakers. Walker once said bluntly, "I missed a lot of opportunities because they only had JJ in mind." The New Odd Couple effort in the early 1980s was the most prominent failure following Good Times. However, despite the huge anticipation, the program was abruptly cancelled, leaving Walker's career record with yet another depressing mark. He persisted in appearing in a number of movies but failed to make a breakthrough. He was compelled to return to stand-up comedy, where crowds were still excited to hear No Might, as his career continued to deteriorate. Walker doesn't have a particularly sparkling personal life. He has never had a family of his own and has never been married. Walker frequently emphasizes that he has never met the proper person and that he is not interested in getting married only to comply with social pressure. Given that his co-workers from the same era have all begun families, his decision to be unmarried has made him the subject of rumors. Walker views this decision as a prolonged period of loneliness as well as freedom. Walker's political beliefs have drawn attention in addition to his professional and personal setbacks. He has publicly backed divisive politicians and frequently spoken conservative opinions. The entertainment business, where the majority of musicians have varying opinions, has responded to this pronouncement in a variety of ways. He admits that voicing his opinions has led to numerous doors closing in his path. Walker has had more challenges in recent years from the contemporary Hollywood landscape. He frequently attacks so-called political correctness, claiming that the entertainment industry's natural independence has been taken away by the stringent language regulations. Although this direct perspective hasn't helped him reclaim important possibilities, it amply illustrates his unwavering character, which always remains true to himself despite the repercussions. All of these elements suggest that Walker has a number of personal difficulties in addition to dealing with the legacy of JSJ. He continuously travels a challenging path with many bends, from a job full of setbacks to a solitary personal life and divisive political beliefs. Every decision has repercussions, and Walker's later years have been molded by this string of errors. Legacy and concluding thoughts. Jimmie Walker left behind a legacy that is both great and controversial even after his good times ended a long time ago. While the behind-the-scenes tales from that era are still often remembered, he entered his latter years. In Walker's opinion, his success has two sides. He became a cultural icon as a result of it, but he also carried with him painful memories of internal conflict. An animated version of Good Times will be available on Netflix in 2024. A flood of recollections is brought back by this incident. Walker remarks that he feels Hollywood is attempting to recycle rather than uphold the original principles because the reboot lacks the original essence. According to Walker, the original was a creation of a unique time period that captured the social unrest and hilarity of the day. He acknowledges that he has never thought of the relaunch as a continuation, but rather as an entirely new product. Walker's memories were profoundly impacted by John Amos's death that same year. Despite their intense rivalry while filming, Walker openly showed his respect for them. He admitted that the show will never be the same when Amos left the ensemble, and he couldn't contain his grief over losing such a vital component. This proves that despite their intense disagreements, Walker genuinely recognized the significance of his former co-worker in their common history. Walker is still touring with his stand-up comedy and working on new movies at the age of 78. In addition to disclosing that he is writing his second novel, he will be in Oklahoma in 2025 to film Forgotten Fortune. These actions demonstrate his age rather than his slowing down or maintaining an active lifestyle. Walker has shown a greater interest for community health by appearing on local television to raise awareness about skin cancer. This stands in sharp contrast to the period when he was only thought of in relation to laughter. Walker does not hide the fact that he previously felt alone on set when discussing his own legacy. He claims that while laughter kept him alive, it also cost him connections and friendships. Walker called such periods his bad times in subsequent musings. He added that he wouldn't have developed into the resilient artist he is now if it weren't for that experience. His confession is valuable since it is no longer concealed by the flash and splendor because of his honesty. The public's perception of JJ also reflects Walker's legacy. This figure is linked to a catchphrase that has been ingrained in popular culture, making them a television icon of the 1970s. This is a hardship as well as a source of pride for Walker. Although he has frequently said that he finds it difficult to avoid that image, he also recognizes its potency. Walker's story is distinctive because of this internal conflict. He is a successful artist who is always considering his value. Many people believe that Walker left behind a complicated legacy. He was a living example of the cost of fame in addition to being a sitcom star. Conflicts with coworkers, a profession that stalled after great success, and contentious personal decisions all combined to paint a complex picture. Walker didn't back down, instead, he spoke the truth. His confessions therefore served as the last link between a turbulent past and a calmer present. Looking back today, Walker characterizes past moments as both good and bad. This is a concise synopsis that captures all of his experiences. He reached new heights as he laughed. He was forced into deep valleys by tension. And tenacity enabled him to get back up and carry on with his journey. With this admission, a long circle is closed, and the public is left with the impression of an artist who was brave enough to confront the truth, despite the paradoxes that never completely go away. Jimmie Walker has acknowledged the turbulent years that went on behind the scenes of Happy Times. A journey that left him with both laughter and unfillable gaps. It was both beautiful and heavy. To ensure you don't miss any new content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like this tale and would like to continue watching our next films. Remember to share your opinions in the comments section below, since everyone's viewpoints will contribute to the story's vibrancy and relatability. I'll see you in the upcoming videos.